Hello everyone, welcome to APG Talkshow 2021, a collaboration event between APG Universitas Pajajaran Student Chapter, APG Universitas Indonesia Student Chapter, APG Institut Teknologi Bandung Student Chapter, and APG Indonesia Student Chapter Committee. How are you guys? I hope all of you are doing well, and don't forget to stay safe and stay healthy. Honorable the President of APG 2021 to 2022, Ms. Gretchen Gillis, the immediate past president of APG 2020 to 2021, Mr. Richard Fritz, Mr. Mark Tingay, Mr. Peter Grant, Ms. Adrienne Pereira, and the Region Council of APG Asia Pacific Region, Mas Andar, KGB, Mas Adit, the Executive Committee of APG Indonesia, and all of the faculty advisors of APG Student Chapter in Indonesia, and honorable to the invited guests who are attended. Let's praise be upon God for the blessings and grace we can gather at this very interesting event that we've been waiting for. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Ms. Gretchen Gillis and Mr. Richard Fritz as our guest speakers for today. And also thank you to all participants that have participated in this APG talk show. Good evening, everyone. My name is Noval from Universitas Indonesia, batch 2020, and it is an awesome and precious chance for me to be the master of ceremony in today's APG talk show. Before we begin, let's pray according to each other's beliefs, and praying begins. Okay, praying finished. We also would like to thanks to our media partner for the support, and our media partners in this event are from APG UPN Student Chapter, APG Unbrau Student Chapter, APG Undip Student Chapter, APG Student Chapter Unpak, APG IST Akprin Student Chapter, APG Unsri Student Chapter, APG Unha Student Chapter, APG Student Chapter Universitas Pertamina, and APG Trisakti. Okay, before we officially begin our event today, this is the agenda for this talk show. First, there was opening and prayer, and then there will be safety moment, welcoming remarks, presentation, talk show, and Q&A session by the speakers, closing remarks, and last, there will be a photo sessions. Okay, before we start our main event, there will be a safety moment by Health Safety and Environment Officer. For Health Safety and Environment Officer, the time is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone. We are from Health Safety Environment Geology University Pajajaran. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Martinus Geraldi, as speaker on Health Officer today. And here I am with my friends Raditya Prawira as Operator Health Officer on APG Talkshow at 26 July 2021.
Izin masuk. Tanya dulu. Yang menjakom
Okay, first, what is safety moment? Safety moment is a briefing on potential accident and disaster that can occur in your location, which has been reviewed by HC Geology Unpad and how you can anticipate. Okay, here we have 5 general rules that you need to all of you obey during this event. First, make your seat position facing the device properly, according to the procedure of the slide. Then, stay at home during the activity for implement health protocol. And then, turn off the audio when not needed, or don't make any disturbing noise. Fourth, create a conducive situation for our mutual comfort. And the last, always prioritize safety. Okay, here our sitting procedure against digits. First, keep your shoulders straight, and then position to sit under the back of the chair. And then, turn your body forward. And then, slowly roll 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 your body for and adjust the back according to idle angle of the chair. The idle angle of the chair is 100 until 110 degrees. And the last, position your knees parallel to or higher than your hips. Okay, here are our COVID-19 health protocol that you all might know. First, physical distancing. Avoid exposure to viruses by keeping a distance of at least 1 meter. Second, wear a face mask when interacting with other people outside. And third, proper hand hygiene. You can use hand sanitizer or soap according to the standard. Fourth, avoid touching your face, especially the eyes, nose, mouth, into the entry of the virus. 5. Cough and sneeze etiquette. Cover the mouth with the upper arms or using a tissue. 6. Self-isolation when you feel sick. And the last, maintain a healthy lifestyle, such like eat nutritious food, proper sleep hygiene, and exercise. Here we have potential disasters that may occur during this event. Okay, next. Our first potential disaster is fire. Fire is a rapid, persistent chemical change that releases heat and light and is accompanied by flame, especially the exothermic oxidation of a combustible substance. And here we have 5 procedure evacuation that you need to obey when occur fire. First, stop all activity, and then don't panic and don't make other people panic. And third, go to the outside or exit carefully to the open area. Fourth, cover your nose or protect yourself from inhaling the smoke. And the last, don't return before the situation is declared safe. And next, here are potential disaster that can occur during this event. There is earthquake. Okay, next. And here are 5 procedure evacuation that you need to obey when this happens. First, stop all activity. And then don't panic and don't make other people panic. And third, go to the outside or exit carefully to the open area. Fourth, if you're stuck in the room, find a place to protect yourself, seems like under the table or corner of the room. And the last, don't return before the situation is declared safe. Okay, the last, we have important number and disaster official website that you can reach in case of emergency. I will give you 10 seconds to take a screenshot or note this important number and disaster official website starts from now. Okay, next. Okay, the last from us. Safety is not everything, but without safety, everything is nothing. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Health Safety and Environment Officer for the safety moment. Maybe to all the participants, you can apply what has been instructed by Health Safety and Environment Officer by now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for the next, there will be a welcoming remarks from the Chairman of Executive Committee APG Indonesia, accompanied by APG Indonesia Student Chapter Committee and APG Asia Pacific Region Representative. For Mas Andar and the others, the time is yours.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, everywhere. Well, as a chair of AAPG Indonesia Executive Committee, I'm honored and enlightened to take great pride in welcoming all the attendees of the AAPG Talkshow. It is our pleasure to invite Gretchen, Rick Fritz, Martin Gay, Peter Grant, all the region councils, House of Delegates, ex officio of APG Asia Pacific region, as well as APG Indonesia Executive Committee, all delegates, participants, and invited guests from Asia Pacific and all over the world. For the first part of welcoming remarks, please let me to share a brief history of APG student chapter and APG committee activities in Indonesia that since 1999 to today. So the first wave of APG student chapter activities was in 2000 when Chagi conducted continual lecturing to Indonesian universities and then helped at least 5 APG student chapters in Indonesia to be established. They were conducted several events and activities until 4 years later, AAPG Unhas student chapter got the first International Outstanding Student Chapter Award. And then emergingly continued by several achievements from other AAPG student chapters. 2005 until 2006 was the second wave of AAPG student chapter establishment in Indonesia, and at least 10 active AAPG student chapters was recorded at the time. Until now, total 17 APG student chapters has established and 4 other universities are still ongoing to make it. APG student chapter activities in Indonesia was becoming more interesting and creative, not only discussing and preparing about technical hard skills and knowledge, but also non-technical and soft skills competencies. Perhaps that's why there are so many awards received by our APG Indonesia student chapters, like Imperial Battle Awards since 2008 and Video Contest Awards since 2013 until now. But then in the future, it be much more massive since APG Indonesia Student Chapters Committee has already been activated. Currently, we have Kak Gebi and Bro Adit as student chapter committee leads for APG Indonesian Student Chapters Committee. And then other APG committee activities in Indonesia are also very varied and attractive. Back to 2016 when publication, foreign affairs, intellectual enhancement, membership, continuous improvement, sustainable development, multimedia, young professional, etc. starts it event and activities. And then something like women's network and research and development start its engagement on 2019 until now. My point actually is life isn't a matter of a milestone, but what we call it, moments and memories. A long history of APG Indonesia will never be this good without someone taking care of us, taking care and accompanying our student chapters to grow and thrive. Who are they? Of course, faculty advisors. Thank you for all the faculty advisors for making this happen. Among the faculty advisors, there must be some who have completed their terms of service because of several new mandates, assignments, and activities, which are very understandable. One of them is Pak Burhanuddin Nur, which is currently chairman of IAGI, Indonesian Association of Geologists, and Dean, Faculty of Earth and Engineering Technology, University Trisakti in Jakarta. So actually, I will invite APG Asia Pacific Region Vice President Peter Grant to give the certificate of appreciation presented to Dr. Insinyur Muhammad Burhanuddin Nur MSc for his volunteerism as faculty advisor of AAPG Universitas Trisakti Student Chapter for 21 years of service. Please, Peter Grant, to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Dwandari. It is a pleasure to be able to commend and show the great piece of work that Dr. Isri Muhammad Burhanuddin Nur has done for our association. A certificate of appreciation is not easy to get, and our association in Asia Pacific does not treat this lightly. We don't have many of them, and Dr. Mohammed is a special person, and he epitomizes all the work that is being done in the universities in Indonesia, who I happen to say are perhaps the most active student chapters in the whole world. And I take my hat off to everything that's being done, but most importantly, the work that Dr. Mohammed has done started this off, and it's been taken on by some great young people now. So please, appreciation for Dr. Mohammed, and thank you very much.
Please, Pak Burhanuddin, to give some speech and advice for all of us. Maybe we'll need to unmute your microphone, Pak Burhan.
Thank you, Pak Andar. Sorry. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Andar. So honorable Ms. Christian, Mr. Richard, and Pak Tingai. I would like to thank you for your appreciation, and this very good moment. We have met with all the VVIP of APG from the region until the president. I think this very good moment, and this talk show also interesting topic to have to what you call give a new vision to our young geologists. AAPG is an important organization for me. I'm a member of AAPG since 1997. I think all you students haven't born yet. I have a good experience and have many benefits as a member of AAPG. I felt more excited when Mr. Chak Hoi allowed me to join together to initiate AAPG in 1990 and establish the first Indonesian student in Indonesia, AAPG student chapter. There's I think Trisakti, ITP, Unhas, and I think five student chapter. We could run Indonesia to set up the AAPG student chapter. As the unforgettable moment is when Trisakti student chapter by bus went to Bali in international AAPG student chapter. That is a great moment for us. And then a lot of student chapter with many AAPG awards have been awarded to Indonesian student chapter of PG, such as Unhas in I think 2004, and then Trisakti 2005, and then ITP, UGM, and a lot of many more. In this moment, I would like to express my deepest gratitude and appreciation to AAPG for this appreciation in this special moment. And hopefully, Indonesian AAPG Indonesia, all the AAPG will continue to develop continuing improvement to our students, to help the student in how to improve themselves in hard skill and also in soft skill, as Pak Andar mentioned before. Next, allow me to talk on behalf of the chairman of Indonesian Geologists Association. We inviting AAPG to collaborate more and more in collaborative activities. I think in this year, in the next activities, in the next moment in October. Hopefully, this collaboration will be more intense and more valuable. Thank you very much for all the appreciation to all the AAPG students, colleague for the faculty advisor in Indonesian student chapter of AAPG. Thank you very much, Pak Andar and Peter Gan. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Again, thank you, Pak Burhan, for the message and advices. Thank you, Peter Grant, for vote of thanks, and thank you to all faculty advisor of APG Indonesia, Asia Pacific, and all around the globe. Well, from the previous background, it is justified for APG Indonesia to conduct mutual integration in current virtual new normal situation to unify, become an APG Indonesia Executive Committee. This is our full package of holacracy organizational committee in APG Indonesia, and we conducted several collaboration, and one of them is AAPG Talkshow. I will let the activity leader of AAPG Talkshow to give several fun facts about the AAPG Talkshow, how AAPG boosts career opportunities in future energy industry. Please welcome Ms. Lois Pasaribu.
Okay, thank you, Mas Andar. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to AAPG Talkshow, how AAPG boosts career opportunities in future energy industry. As mentioned before, this event is a collaboration event between AAPG Universitas Pajajaran Student Chapter, AAPG Universitas Indonesia Student Chapter, and AAPG Institute Teknologi Bandung Student Chapter. Also supervised by the Executive Committee of AAPG Indonesia and AAPG Asia Pacific Region Council. Next, as we can see on the screen, okay, as you can see on the screen, this event is not only planned by various parties, but also being anticipated from various AAPG student chapter in Indonesia. Moreover, from several other countries, with the major varying from geology to other science-related major. And there is the expectations of the participant. Next. Okay, there are a lot of people who contributed to make this event come true. So I just cannot thank them enough. As you can see on the screen, there is our picture preparing for this event. Next. So yeah, we greatly appreciate your time and presence. We have planned this event for a while now, so I hope this event meets your expectations to the fullest. Thank you so much, and back to you, Mr. Andar.
Thank you, Lois. So since this talk show covers very global aspects on how APG boosts career opportunities in the future energy industry, so anyone interested in should not miss this opportunity. I sincerely hope that this fruitful talk show will deliberate and discuss all the different facets of this exciting topic. We welcome you to this talk show, and we're looking forward to an excellent discussion. Again, welcome and enjoy the APG talk show. So I will need Noval to get back with the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Andar and the others for the welcoming remarks. That was an interesting fun fact about APG talk show today. Also, what an honor to have an amazing invited guest such as Mr. Burhanuddin Nur, who has volunteered as a faculty advisor for 21 years and for today's talk show. Okay, so let's continue our event. There are some rules that must be obeyed during this activity. For all the participants, please listen carefully. 1. Please be punctual since we only provide limited seats. 2. Participants are prohibited from chatting with inappropriate words. 3. Participants must speak or talk politely when the event takes place. 4. Participants are expected to mute the microphone while the moderator and speakers are speaking. 5. Participants are required to turn off the video and make sure you are muted during this presentation from the speakers. 6. During the talk show and Q&A sessions, participants are encouraged to turn on the camera. 7. Since we will conduct the photo sessions, participants can use our virtual background, but it is not mandatory if the participants can't use the background. 8, there will be a possibilities that we will have some issues during the sessions, so be patient for we are running out our maximum capacity. Okay, I would like to say thank you to the participants who have obeyed the rules. So before we begin, I remind all participants to be more interactive because at the end of the event, there will be a door prize to the participants who give the best questions. So don't hesitate to ask. Also, don't forget to fill in the link for the attendance that will be provided in the Zoom chat column because the participants who stays until the end of the event will get free e-certificates. Okay, for the next agenda, I will leave it to the moderator Marvel. For the moderator, the time is yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Noval. I'm gonna take over from here. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning from right now. I'm hoping that you all are in great condition despite the challenges that we're currently having right now. Before we start this session, I'm going to do a little quick introduction for myself. I am Marvel Amadeus, usually mentioned as Marvel. I'm from AAPG Pajajaran University Student Chapter Batch 2020. In this tonight talk show session, I'm going to be your moderator to help in case you have any specific questions toward the material that's going to be given by our wonderful speaker we have tonight, Gretchen Gillis and Richard Fritz. In this session, I'm also going to be accompanied with Ms. Ayudia from AAPG Student Chapter University of Indonesia in case that there will be a specific connection issue with my device. In the upcoming talk show session, we will be expecting questions coming from tons of institutions in Indonesia and outside from Indonesia as well. We have 25 Indonesia institutions and several foreign institutions such as University Kebangsaan Malaysia, Bahria University, Indian Institute of Technology, University Teknologi Petronas, National University of Malaysia, National Observatory from Brazil, and last but not least, Northern Arizona University. Wow, a lot of wonderful institutions we're expecting in this talk show, yeah? Aside from that, the participant major dominantly also coming from geology major, geophysics, petroleum, and other engineering students as well. Therefore, do not forget to make sure to throw as many questions as you guys can, because in this session, we're expecting to get the knowledge, new insight about career, opportunity, experience, networking, connection, relation in oil and gas industry. So before we're jumping to the presentation session, I'm going to read a quick CV by two of our amazing speakers tonight. First, we have Gretchen M. Gillis. She got the academic degrees as follow. In 1986, she got the bachelor degree in geology from Bryn Mawr College in Bryn Mawr. And in 1989, she got the master in geological science from the University of Texas at Austin. She also has some amazing experience. Like, for example, in 1989 from 1996, she was the exploration geologist in Maxus Exploration Company in Dallas, Texas. And also in 1996 until 1997, she was also the development geologist in Oryx Energy Company in Dallas, Texas. And in 1997 until 2010, she was the editorial advisor in Schlumberger, Houston. And lastly but not least, 2010 until now, she was the geological consultant at Aramco Services Company in Houston. Next, also some wonderful AAPG activities and experiences our amazing Gretchen Gillis has been having. She joined AAPG in 1990 and also as follow a lot of wonderful experiences that you can see, being co-chair in AAPG ACE short course, being the chair in public outreach committee, and a lot of much more wonderful experience. And last, of course, she was also the 2021 until 2022, the president of AAPG. Next, we also have our wonderful Richard Fritz. He got the academic degrees as follow. In 1975, he got the bachelor degree of geology at Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. In 1978 as well, he got the master in geology at Oklahoma State University in Stillwater as well. And in 1977 until 1979, he was the senior geologist in Exxon Kingsville, Texas. Also, some wonderful experiences that we can see in the screen From 1980 until 1982, he was the exploration geologist in Exxon, Oklahoma City in Oklahoma. From 1982 until 1999, he was the senior geologist and also the president of Masera Corporation, Tulsa. And in 1999 until 2011, he was the executive director of AAPG in Tulsa. And in 2011 until 2015, he was the senior advisor in SM Energy Tulsa. Last not least, 2015 until 2018, he was the CEO and GO in Council Oak Resources Tulsa. And also here are some wonderful AAPG activities Mr. Richard has been having. He joined AAPG in 1975. He was member of DPA, DEG, and AMD as well. Of course, a lot of chair position, a lot of president position, and last but not least, in 2020 until 2021, he was the past immediate of president of AAPG. Fantastic experience, yeah? I'm very sure at this point we all are very delightful and cannot wait to hear the presentation from these two experienced people. So first one, we're gonna hear a brief presentation from Gretchen. Without any further ado, I'm very, very honored to call Gretchen to start her presentation. The floor is yours.
All right, so good evening, good afternoon, everybody. I hope my slides are not advancing. Let me see if I can fix that. Sorry about that. So while I am trying to fix this, okay. I hope you can see the slides and that it's working.
Not yet, Gretchen. We're not up yet.
Okay. Lois, I may need your help as backup here.
Okay, I will share the presentation for you.
Okay, thank you.
Up and good now, Gretchen.
Okay, very good. Sorry about that. So thank you so much for honoring me with this opportunity to join you for this talk show. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm so impressed with the people that you've pulled in from all over the world and all different time zones. And in particular, I wanted to say hello to my friend Herman Darman, who I haven't seen in years. And I also wanted to welcome our Vice President Regions, Elvira Pereza Gomez, who I believe is online. But I'm really happy to see so many people here today. I wanted to touch on a few things. First, by running through these slides, a little bit about some of the really big activities in AAPG right now. And then I know there's some interest in my thoughts about diversity and women in the industry and skills and so on. And I know we will have time during the Q&A to address that if I don't get to it right now. So I do want to talk first about the exploration of a potential merger to form a new organization with our sister society, the Society of Petroleum Engineers. Next, please.
Lois.
There we go. So one of the first questions that comes up is, why are we exploring a merger? And the basic answer is to serve our AAPG Petroleum Geoscience members as well as the industry. And I think it's clear that we are in a period of very rapid change. And the energy transition is a big part of that. So we recognize that we need to prepare our members for new roles and different career opportunities that will differ substantially from my career for sure. And we've come to the realization that having a cross-disciplinary organization will make us stronger because it will help us understand where we're going in the future. One of the other realities is that we have wonderful supporters and stakeholders, companies like mine and some of the major operators and service companies around the world. And they've been very supportive of AAPG, but like every other organization, they are under lots of financial pressure. And so supporting so many different professional societies is difficult, both financially and in terms of their staff, because having people volunteering for many organizations takes up too much time. So some streamlining is helpful for them. And so in forming a new organization, we believe that combining AAPG and SPE allows us to create the premier global professional society for petrotechnical professionals. And this organization can address the challenges of the energy transition, as well as serving various stakeholders, members, supporting companies, and so on. Next slide, please. One of the other questions that comes up is the difference in size of AAPG and SPE. And you can see from this slide that AAPG has about 16,000 professional members and about nearly 10,000 student members. SPE has many more. The same thing goes for the number of staff and the financial revenue looking at a time before COVID, because of course, last year was a truly anomalous year. But I would say that we also need to sort of set these numbers aside, because in approaching the formation of a new organization with SPE, we are very conscious of the fact that AAPG is the strategic and professional equal of SPE. And so we are approaching this as equals. Next slide, please. Another reason why we feel that this partnership makes sense is that we have a very long track record of successful collaboration with SPE. And you know that probably in your region more from the IPTC than maybe some of the other events like OTC or YourTech. And by the way, YourTech is beginning this morning, so feel free to attend if you can. So we've got these long-standing collaborations that have been very successful. But as we started looking at the possibility of collaborating more deeply with SPE, it became clear that the business models of the two organizations are similar. And both organizations are mission-driven. We really have a strong commitment to meeting the needs of members. Next slide, please. In exploring the creation of a new organization with SPE, a team was formed in February 2021. So Rick Fritz, as AAPG president, appointed me and Bobby Ryan, who's a very senior former executive of Chevron, to work with David Curtis and Alan Wegener of the AAPG staff. And then SPE had counterparts, both staff and volunteers. And we called ourselves the bowling team because the initial phase of exploring this merger and new organization had to be a secret. And the bowling team refers to 3 bowling organizations that merged successfully a few years ago. So there's actually a paper out there that you can read if you want. Next slide, please. So the bowling team formed in February, and I have to say that this has been a group of great professionalism and respect. It's really been a pleasure to work with this group, and we've been working very hard. And some of the discussions are quite difficult, but the professionalism and respect have made me extremely proud and happy of what we've accomplished so far. So in our discussions, we keep talking about what will the new organization potentially look like. And it's clear that we will build on a shared legacy of petroleum engineering and geoscience. That's really what we've been doing in AAPG for more than 100 years. But as we develop the concept of a new organization, we need to take into account where the industry is going. And certainly in the petroleum industry, there's a much more important integration of engineering and geoscience disciplines. We really have to work together to solve problems in the subsurface. And companies have been doing this for years. And we really did a reality check of this through Rick's work with the Corporate Advisory Board. And Rick set up a series of really informative meetings with many of the major companies that support AAPG. And we learned a lot from these discussions, how their teams are working together, the fact that really they've been integrated in the subsurface for a number of years. But one of the other things that is clear is that AAPG and SPE can better serve their members by collaborating more closely as the industry evolves. And many companies have announced initiatives around sustainability, around data analytics, and even getting into other energy endeavors like carbon capture and sequestration and geothermal energy. And while AAPG has been involved in those for a long time, we need to make them a little more prominent and try to integrate with our engineering colleagues to increase the value of what we're doing. And so potentially the new organization is one organization that would serve all these different purposes. Next slide, please. We also feel that the combined organization will have greater value to members because we will expand the scope while performing better financially. And just at the very highest level, both AAPG and SPE have enormous databases of technical literature. And so even if you don't participate in conferences or any of the other wonderful benefits, you still would have access to this great repository of literature. But I think for me, one of the motivations is that we will have a bigger network of experts and professional colleagues in a combined organization. And then one other thing is that while we haven't completely worked out the details of what membership would look like, if you're paying to belong to two organizations, it might work out better and that you will probably pay less to belong to just one combined organization. Next slide, please. We think the combined organization will be stronger together because we will have more members, and scale is important to our advertisers and exhibitors. So financially, it's a smart move. But we also think that the combined organization will be really the premier professional society for both petroleum geoscience and people interested in the energy industry more generally. We'll be able to adapt and expand as the energy transition continues and we understand what technical disciplines are going to be more important. And then simply the combined organizations will be more efficient because we will be able to have staff working together and volunteers working together on combined events rather than acting as a lot of separate pieces. Next slide, please. So the process that we are following is fairly aggressive. As I mentioned, the bowling team, which is now called the steering committee, began meeting in February. What we are hoping to do is put together a more solid proposal of what the consolidated organization would look like. What is the mission and vision of the combined organization going to be? What will the corporate and leadership structure look like? What will the membership system be? As well as other things like making sure financially that we have done our due diligence. So the idea is to put this proposal in front of the AAPG Executive Committee and the SPE board in September. So there's a lot of work to do between now and then. And for example, the chair of the House of Delegates, Christy Ferguson, has scheduled 3 town hall meetings in August, where she will be discussing this proposal and seeking feedback from members. We will also have some focus groups with industry and academic leadership to understand what they are looking for in a combined organization. Now, under Rick's leadership, the AAPG Executive Committee unanimously approved this idea, and the SPE board unanimously approved the idea in May, just the idea of the combined organization. So this next stage gate is to look at a more detailed analysis of what the new organization would look like. And then after that, assuming that we have continued support, then we will go to the membership for discussion and we hope approval by both memberships. So this is a fairly aggressive schedule, but one of the concepts that we understand is that time kills all deals. And if we don't move ahead quickly, we will lose our initiative. So yes, we're pursuing a fairly aggressive timeline, but we are doing this with respect and optimism and real excitement about what we perceive to be a better organization that serves both members and supporters very well as we go through a period of just very rapid change. Next, please. As I mentioned, feedback from the membership is very important, and you will see that I have put my email address at the bottom of this slide because I would like to hear from you. I would like to hear what you think. If you have concerns, if you have suggestions, that is what I am hoping to receive from you. So I'm going to stop there with the slides. I think I have probably taken as much time as I've been allowed. And if that's the case, I am happy to stop and turn over to our next speaker.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Ms. Gretchen. Don't worry for the overtime because I think that it's all worth it to see the possibility of this collaboration between AAPG and SPE itself. Wonderful insight. Thank you, Gretchen. Lastly, I personally never see the possibility for SPE and AAPG collaboration, but because as you say, we are very strong together, I see that there's no reason for us to not collaboration in any further time. It becomes clear, right, that the business model of AAPG and SPE is quite similar. So therefore, it's very quite possible to pull up a professional and strategic organization that is filled with great and wonderful individual in need to increase the value of the association both mutually, right? So also aside from that, because in the future time, engineering and geoscience practices need to assimilate and merge together, it's very important for these two amazing association to do merging in time ahead. I'm also lastly, I'm also very happy to announce that in the middle of our participant tonight, we have the AAPG Asia Pacific Region President with us tonight, Dr. Martin Gay. To Dr. Martin Gay, would you like to say a few words before I'm jumping to Rick Fritz?
Hello, everyone. I'm not sure if you can see me. Oh, there we go. Yes, so good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Tingay, the AAPG Asia Pacific Region President. I really wanted to thank everyone for attending tonight, and particularly all the organisers for the wonderful job that they've done so far. I didn't get a chance to award the faculty advisors for their 21 years of service, but it's an amazing effort, and I wanted to particularly thank them for all their service. And it's so wonderful that tonight we have with us the former past president, Rick Fitz, as well as our current president, Gretchen Gillis, and our brand new vice president for regions, Elvira. So really amazing job and an incredible job from all of the people who are organizing this worldwide event. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, for this speech. We also are very happy to hear the compliment to organizing committee for pull up a great event tonight. Thank you again for your attending in this event tonight. I think that all of us right now have a very interesting intention to ask some questions, but hold those questions first, because next we also have another experienced speaker in his field. We're gonna hear a quick and brief presentation coming from Mr. Rick Fritz. To Rick, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Marvel. I'm looking good to see everyone. I trust you can see my screen now.
Yeah, it's visible.
This is a good time to stretch. I'm gonna stretch a little bit. So if you haven't stretched, stretch a little bit and get comfortable. I'm gonna talk a little bit about careers. And first of all, this is what has guided me through my career are these three words. And the first one is evaluate, the second is innovate, and the last one is to act. And so to start out, I would encourage you throughout your career to use these three words. And evaluate is just evaluate your situation, whatever time you're in your career. And then innovate, look at what you can do differently and what you can do better. And then, of course, the last thing is act. It's funny, often we don't do the last word. We don't act. We often do the first two and then forget to act, or for some reason we just don't take the time to act. That's very important that you do all three in your career. It really will make you more successful to use these three words. I'm going to show you my career. This is what my career has looked like. And you see what we call pivots, a number of pivots and changes from, I started out as a geologist, and then I went to a geophysicist, and then I became went back to school and became more of a geologist again with geophysical abilities. Became a geological manager, an explorationist. So, you see that a lot of the changes here in my career was, changes in kind of the job I was doing. The other thing, the reason I have, if you're working for an NOC or an IOC, you probably won't have this many changes. Some may be fortunate to have only one company they work for their entire life, and that's great. That's a very good relationship you can build. Others may have two or three. I've been around for a while, for over 40 years. So it's a lot of the reason I changed. You see these D's on here. That's not my grade. Okay, that's not my grade card. D, that means drilling. And one thing that I'll talk about passion here in a minute. One of my passions was to drill wells. And so this first job, Texaco, we had a few wells drilled. With Exxon, we proposed and drilled 100 wells, almost exactly. And so all of these are areas. So when I when I changed my career, I was looking for opportunities to drill because that was my passion, to drill, actually be involved in that. That may not be your passion. So here are the career controls. Now, this is a picture of a big fish, not me, the fish. This is a Florida black bass out in the Texas Panhandle. It's about a 10-pound bass. Now, if you like to fish, smile for me. You know, I can't see you smile, but go ahead and smile anyway, whether I can see or not. I love to fish. The secret of taking a picture of a fish is you got to hold your arm out as far as you can so it looks big. So anyway, but this is what I call career controls. Of course, this is if you're fishing for a new career, education you start out with, of course, is the key. You get a good education, and then you decide what you want to do. And I've already mentioned these, but these are the controls, in my opinion, is passion. What do you want to do? But opportunity is second. Now, you'll realize in some of your careers that you may have opportunities that aren't exactly in your passion. You know, it's not something you really, really love to do, but they make good money, and you may need a job at that time. And so you can't necessarily be in your passion. Try to do that when you can, but they're not necessarily always aligned. And then third, over time, it's knowledge and experience. And you'll use that to control your career. Now, there's some external guidelines. There are some external things that control that, what I call overarching guidelines, and external and personal. And this would be like oil and gas prices, for example. It would be things like finances in the in the industry, as in where they're going as far as energy exploration. Underlying guidelines would be internal and personal, and this would be your family. You know, what do you want to do as far as your family and so on, and so it's or your friends. You know, you want to work with your friends. So those are the overarching and underlying guidelines. But this is the way I describe a career, are these guidelines. So no, here we go. So one thing APG is doing right now is we are trying to help our members that are in transition, that may or may not be going into oil and so on. And so this couple of years, we've worked to develop what we call MIT program. Down at the bottom, you can see that's how you get into it at toolkitaapg.org. And it just shows a lot of information as far as if you're trying to find data and so on to help you with your career. Now, I will admit freely, this is a very pretty much US centric right now, but we're in the process of expanding this worldwide. Now, this is something that Gretchen brought to us. It was an SPE program, and we've expanded now with SPE, APG, and SEG. So, but the key thing I wanted to tell you today is if you go into the toolkit, you'll see our list of career opportunities. So these, these are opportunities that are realistic, that we think you can find jobs in even now or in the future. And so you see that there's a list of about 50 different career choices. So you can go online and see this and just look at some things that you might want to do, because we have descriptions of each one. We have descriptions. We talk about job density, how many jobs are there really out there. We talk about how old or how young the industry is that you might be going into, like like geoanalytics. And here's the second list of it. And we talk about things like sustainability and geothermal is getting stronger, and energy storage is getting to be a big deal. So there are a list of jobs out there for you to look at. There's actually, we've added a 10th one now, but it's mainly for specialities. So that's so that's something that you can go to now to, if you're a student, a young professional, and kind of get an idea of what potential jobs are out there. Again, this tends to be very US centric, and we are expanding it now to more of a global system. So for how to use MIT as a career guide, back to those steps I told you about, evaluate, are you in or out of the energy business? You have to decide, am I going to stay in or I'm going to look something else? If you're going to stay in, innovate, find those jobs that have, your passion, your opportunity, something that even your, young experiences shows you want to go that direction, and then act, investigate, make contacts. The contacts are so important in finding and developing your career. This is a key part of that. I know it's been tough with COVID, but still you can do it virtually. But you can also, we'll get together more and more. The thing that I look at is there's a lot of people say, well, there's no oil and gas jobs, and that's correct. There's not as many as in the past because we're not in an exploration phase. When we get back to an exploration phase, there'll be jobs. But right now, there's a lot of geologists tend to be very, very versatile and a jack of all trades, we call it, and you can do a lot of things, and you love your work, you love geology. And so I think it's a tremendous opportunity now. In the past, when when times were tough, after I got out of school, there wasn't a lot of different things you could do. But nowadays, there are so many new things going on in energy and carbon capture and storage. It's exciting that we have all these possibilities out there. So this is just a list of some of those that you can consider. These are listed in the MIT. Be sure and look at the job density when you look in what's realistic. Some may have lower job density. Some may have higher density. And if you're going to go to a job that has really low density, what I mean by density or number of jobs, all that means is number of jobs available. Okay. If it's a low density, you're going to have to be the best in your field. Okay. You just say, okay, I'm going to go to rare earth mining, and but to get a job there's not that many jobs. You're going to have to be very, very good. Okay. And you want to be good all the time anyway, but you need to understand you have the concentration in your career. Higher density, there's more opportunity. You still want to be very good, but there's more opportunity. So look at understand density when you look at any of these jobs. Okay. And then finally, you'll have multiple career pathways. In the past, you may started out in petroleum and you're an explorationist and you are a geophysicist, and that's all you've done. Now we see within these companies, especially large companies, NOCs and IOCs, that you may start in petroleum, you may wind up in sequestration. So this could be your job, path, your career path. Be flexible. You may start at environmental and go to hydrogeology, to compliance, to geothermal. So there are multiple career paths within a single company even, but also within your general career. Some of you may want to go into management. Some of you may want to go be an entrepreneur like I did. That was more I became more of an entrepreneur in the last half, and management, less geology. But the main thing to remember and looking at your careers is there's going to be times when you're camping, and that's mean you're satisfied with where you are and you're doing well and you just want to stay there. But I would encourage you not to stay there too long. I like the climbers, because be around people that climb, and because it helps you. You always, even if the worst times in my career was okay to camp sometimes, but also climb times. Okay, so that's my wisdom. There's who knows, we may be on Mars some, and this is perseverance. And I didn't realize it had a rock hammer, but I think that's nice. They put a rock hammer on it. So anyhow, it's great to see everyone, and that is my story about careers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick, for that amazing presentation. I think you can stop. Oh, cool. I was just about to say you need to stop sharing, but already did. Thank you, Richard, for amazing pivot. Important notes to make in here for all participants, especially student. Evaluate first, are you going to stay in, or probably you're going to stay out in the future, or also innovate, pick those jobs that you like, and probably have challenge that you interest. And lastly, the very, very important thing is to act, right? To investigate and make context, because as Rick said, some people just do evaluate and innovate, but they forget to act in the very first place. Also, amazing notes that I can get from Rick Pivot. Because of the versatility of energy field in the very first place, all of us, especially student, of course, need to be able to position ourselves where are we might be leading in the future, right? Such as looking for job density, like the amount of job that exists out there. Is it like a lot of opportunities exist or not that much opportunities? Be it like some of us have a specific passion in management, like petroleum, explorationist, just like as Rick, or probably some of us are into entrepreneurs jobs, such as into working in hydrogeology or geothermal, whatever it all of us are able to position ourselves regarding to our passion in this place, right? Thank you a lot again for Rick for amazing pivot. Now I think that some of us in here participant have already got a lot of questions. Without any longer time, we're gonna jump into the talk show and Q&A session. Yay, the fun part. For those of you who have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in this session, because as you can see, Rick as explorationist and Gretchen as the president of AAPG, don't be hesitant to ask them in this session because of the wonderful speaker. If you have any, just directly use the raise hand feature in your Zoom, and I will let you ask the question by unmuting yourself. We are preventing the usage of chat box. So if you have any, just deliver it by unmuting yourself. Do not type it in the chat box. Wow, what a enthusiasm we have in here. We already have a first participant to ask. To Tristofani Agasta, the person who is raising hand, I'm handling the question to you.
Thank you to moderator. Should I turn on the video or not?
If you're possible, if your connection is good, you may turn on your camera.
Thank you. My name is Tristofani from the Institute Technology 10 November Surabaya. I would like to ask to Mr. Rick about being entrepreneur, especially in geophysics. Since you said earlier that you ever become in aspect of entrepreneurship, I also have a dream to be entrepreneur in energy development and materials. Is there any chance that if I can be entrepreneur that focusing in maybe not material directly, but in instrumentation, the instrument, the tools to collect those materials, especially many people are dreaming to collect materials maybe from asteroids like SpaceX. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for. Oh, Rick, do you want to say anything?
Do you want me to answer that or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. A good question. I believe, make sure I understand your question. Are there opportunities in instrumentation as far as entrepreneurial skills? And yeah, I'd say innovation in technology is incredible, and a lot of what is driven, like our horizontal drilling in the U.S., has been innovation in the instrumentation. Now, instrumentation is a huge field; it's big, but as an entrepreneur, certainly there's opportunities, especially if there's something that you can invent or modify. The thing I would encourage you, if you want to go into the entrepreneurial field, is make sure you get some business, either courses, finance, understand money. Okay, that's the last my last company, we raised about $150 million. So you must understand money if you're going to be an entrepreneur, and that would be my advice.
Handing it to Gretchen.
Yeah, thank you. I want to just build on what Rick said and noting that some of the larger companies, both service companies and exploration and production companies, are not staffing their research organizations as fully as in the past. And so sometimes those companies are really looking to entrepreneurs for innovation, for new tools, new technologies, and they tend to try to buy those small companies or startup companies when they see something that they like. So many of the companies now have what are called energy ventures groups that actually look for entrepreneurs and new technologies to invest in or to purchase outright. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen and Rick, for both amazing answers. So yeah, the point is you need to have the thirst and thrive to jump into the field itself, and also knowing about business and money, as what Rick said. To Trisovani, your answer has been well answered.
Thank you very much to Mr. Rick and Miss Gretchen Gillis. I think it's very that knowledge is very interesting me, since there is some topics in circular economy about materials and money that you speak about. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Tristofani as well for the amazing questions. I'm expecting another participant probably want to ask some questions. Just directly use the raise hand feature and I will let you to deliver your question by unmuting yourself. I guess I'm not seeing any participant right now. So I got a specific question coming from the participant that is chatting to me privately from Halason Simanjuntak. What are the major challenges facing by renewable energy-based company industry? Can geologists have still big opportunity jobs in the future because we know ahead fossil energy will be replaced? Handing this first one to Gretchen, probably.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting question. So Rick talked a bit about the job density or the number of jobs in a particular area. And I think one of the real challenges of non-petroleum sources of energy is we don't know exactly how many jobs are going to be available, when they will be available, and where they will be available. And so for renewables, that is a key challenge for geoscientists. My sense is that people are finding individual opportunities. And I'll say I know of two geoscientists that I know in Europe who have moved from petroleum organizations. One moved into solar and one moved into wind. And both of them had like 10 or 15 years of experience, and the opportunities are interesting. But, for example, if you want to build an offshore wind facility, you need somebody who can interpret shallow seismic surveys for shallow hazards that would affect placement of infrastructure, for example. I'm also seeing people moving into geothermal energy, kind of small companies. So it's very different from when I was graduating from university and recruiters from Chevron and Exxon and Shell would come and interview people. I think it is more that you have to look for individual opportunities. One other example that I found interesting was that a few weeks ago, I spoke with some graduate students in geoscience and engineering at Columbia University in New York. And they were looking at going into work for startup companies, and many of them were around energy storage and batteries, things that I had never thought about. And so I think it takes a certain amount of courage to go out and look for these opportunities, because I do think the pressure is more on you to find the opportunity. But I also think that in doing so, having a deep understanding of the energy industry and the ongoing important role of petroleum is important, because there's a lot of ambition around renewables. But I think in most places, oil and gas are considered the backup sources of energy that will be needed for a while. And petroleum will be needed for petrochemicals, for example. So I'll stop there and hand back.
Thank you, Gretchen. To Rick, do you have any additional answer regarding the point?
Well, I would say that, as Gretchen just said, remember, a lot of our future is going to be the sustainable development of oil and gas. But as far as renewables, there's several things you need to understand there. And if you're going to go into that field, one of the things you need to understand is really the technology. I'm encouraging students to at least take some courses in engineering or technology or business, because it's if you're going into renewables, engineering and business are key aspects. And the other thing you want to really look and understand is and try to get some information or even training about dealing with governments, because many of the renewables are related to subsidies by the government and or grants or so on that are coming from the government. So it's you need to understand that, again, I'm going back to money, understand the flow of money if you're going into that profession, because you need to know if it's going to dry up or where it's going, where they're placing most of their emphasis. So that's a key thing.
Cool. Thank you, Rick, for amazing additional. Probably several notes to the answer as well if you want to jump to renewable energy, because the practices is quite the same in the very first place. Do not worry if you come from the background of geoscience, as what Gretchen mentioned before. And also, as what Rick said, if you want to jump into renewable, also you need to make sure to learn some extra technique and also follow the flow of money, how the circumstances in the field is going, so you're able to adapt much more faster and better. So yeah, I hope that answers the question coming from Halason Simanjuntak. Thank you for the amazing questions.
Okay, thank you for the question. Can I ask the question?
Sorry, your voice is quite small. I cannot really hear what you're saying.
It's okay. Thank you for the explanation.
Cool.
Thanks, Gretchen. Thanks.
Thank you also for the questions. Moving on from the next participant, I already see a new participant that is raising the hand. To Claire Pringle. To Miss Claire, the time is yours.
Hi, thank you, and thanks to everyone for organizing. This is a really great event to be here for. So this is for Gretchen and Rick. I just was wondering if you have any advice specifically about networking in this newer, more virtual time. And it seems like things are kind of coming back, but there's definitely less recruiting opportunities and less just in person. It makes a big difference getting to meet people in person. So any advice on being able to make those connections virtually and find ways to meet new people during this time?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really great question, because as you can tell by my joining AAPG in 1990, that was a time where really all networking was in person or sometimes the telephone. And you're right, things are very different now. And there is a bit of tension about how do we properly do this. So I will say that I think that some of the networking tools that we have, like LinkedIn and to a limited degree, even Facebook, can be useful. I think there's a certain amount of respect that has to be given both ways to make it successful. So for example, for the most part, I am happy to accept LinkedIn connections from people who are geoscientists, and especially if they are members of AAPG. But what sometimes can be off-putting is I'll accept a connection and 2 minutes later, I get a very aggressive personal message through LinkedIn saying, I need your help and I need you to mentor me, and I won't take no for an answer. Now, to me, that's a little bit scary. Like, are you going to be a stalker? Do I have to worry about what you'll do if I say no? So that, and sometimes it's cultural or language differences that cause me to react that way. So I think it's, especially virtually, you have to kind of get to know people, and you can do that electronically by commenting on posts and that sort of thing before making any sort of demand like, can you give me advice about this topic, please? I will say, I think in terms of employers, I'm pretty horrified by some of what I'm hearing about sort of robotic interviews where people are asked to do a job interview just with a screen, not even a human. And sometimes they get no response. I think anytime we have the opportunity to talk to industry recruiters and tell them that that's not a really wonderful way to treat people, I think that will serve us well into the future, because I do think that employment is a two-way street, and employees are valuable and employers are valuable, and again, mutual respect is important. I will say, as long as people of my generation are still involved in recruiting, anytime you can accomplish the face-to-face safely is worthwhile. So for example, I do plan to go to the EuroTech conference in person, but because of the Delta variant, I'm going to be wearing a mask. I'm hoping to travel to other conferences if international travel is safe, because I really do see the value and I miss being with geoscientists. But you know, in the meantime, I think we all have to work really hard at our virtual networking skills. And I have to say, it's really good to see that we have this well-organized group of more than 200 people who I think are networking quite effectively. So I think I'll stop there and hand back. I don't know if Rick or Marvel would.
Perhaps I might, this Peter here, may comment, if that's okay, Lois.
Yeah, Peter, you may go.
The networking is really, really important. And in Indonesia, you pre-COVID had a great opportunity to do that through the different organizations you had, whether they're geophysical, SPE or AAPG. Those are the events where you can sell yourself as a geoscientist. And it's very important you could take advantage of that. Now, in a COVID environment, I'm not sure what's happening in Indonesia at present, but those are the areas where you need to get out there and just tell them how good you are. And a lot of good people in Indonesia have done it that way. So let me just say, networking, as Gretchen just said, is really, really important. And you've now got a lot of different media alternatives than we had as kids to do it. It's not easy, but you've got to get out there and say, why am I slightly better, slightly different to other people who've graduated with me? So thank you. I'll talk later.
Thank you, Peter, for the remarks. To Rick, do you have anything to say?
I'm afraid Rick looks like he's frozen.
Well,
he did
you can get
say that he,
involved.
oh, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the look for small groups you can be involved with. This is a great way to do it here, but it's you need groups of really less than 10 that you can talk to, and do it in two ways. One is technical. Find a group that you really have a passion for some technical item. You may want to write a paper, you may want to give a talk, and so you begin to meet colleagues that way. The other thing is look for things that are just fun to do. I'm started a thing called Jam and Geos, and I found that there's a lot of guitar players and singers and other people, and geologists tend to be very creative, and so it's fun getting together. We have a small group, and so you make those contacts, and sometimes they're both. So look for those small special interest groups to be involved with.
And last comment from myself, Marvel, would be find yourself a mentor. Mentors, but there's lots of mentors around, and we old boys and girls, we'd love to mentor you guys, and you need, if you get a mentor, we can help you, and there's lots of mentors in the AAPG and SPE that will help you to put your CVs together, introduce you to people.
But that's a good point, Peter, but also look for mentors that are about 10 years older than you, that have just gone, or maybe
that's
5.
Right. who know the local industry.
That just went through what you're trying to go through. So look for both.
Thank you, Gretchen, Rick, Peter. Amazing insight to the questions. How to find a networking method in this middle of pandemic time. As what Gretchen mentioned, use technology such as LinkedIn and Facebook, and especially to a APG member, we have the privilege to be connected with Gretchen in LinkedIn. So if you are probably interested in please do not hesitate to link with Gretchen in there. And also, as what Peter said, look for mentor, look for the one that is able to give you knowledge and give you like specific methods to reconnect in this middle of hard time as well. To Claire, is all clear? All good? Yeah, I think it's all very, very good. We have another participant that want to ask the question, but I think that she's not able to unmute themselves, so I'm just going to read from the chat. I'm Naila from University of Indonesia. I ever wonder about the energy collaboration between petroleum and any other renewables, such as with the use of hot but dry old petroleum well to geothermal sources. May I know about Gretchen and Rick's opinion about this idea?
I'm sorry, Marvel, I did not hear all of the question. Can you repeat it, please?
Cool, sure. I'm Naila from University of Indonesia. I ever wonder about the energy collaboration between petroleum and other new renewables, such as with the use of hot but dry old petroleum well to be geothermal resources. May I know about Gretchen and Rick's opinion about this idea?
Yes, yeah, so I'm happy to jump in with a simple answer. I think this is a very early stage, but I think this is a fantastic idea. One of the great events that just happened last week is a conference called Pivot, and it's run by a woman at the University of Texas at Austin. It's a free online conference, and I don't know if they have material available after the fact, but I believe that that's one of the topics that they are covering. And I will say that I think we will see much more activity in that area in the short term. It's something that I want to learn more about because I really don't know much. And unfortunately, I missed the Pivot conference last week.
It's okay, Gretchen. Don't worry. Probably Rick have anything to say as well?
Well, I'm not clear on the question either, but I'll kind of answer it. One thing you hear a lot about energy transition, and it is a transition, but it's also an integration. And I really like to talk because there's a lot of things that it's going to be an integration. And one of the things I mentioned earlier was the sustainable development oil and gas. And a lot of companies are moving to that point, and they're looking at enhanced oil recovery. So often within a company, you're going to switch around a lot, and you may be removing lithium from oil field brines. So there's going to be this integration of oil and gas and renewable energy, I think. And it's not just going to be we're cutting it off at this point. We're really integrating the whole, because we need all forms of energy. We really need all forms of energy worldwide.
Cool. Thank you, Gretchen and Rick. I just read the chat box, and I think the T4 2021, as Gretchen mentioned before, the material is available online. We can watch the recorded material online. So probably to the participant who asked about the petroleum and other renewables collaboration, you can also check the recorded that exists in online as well to fulfill the whole question that is coming from both Rick and Gretchen. Okay, cool. Jumping to next question, I also have another question from Dava Gamas from Sriwijaya University. He cannot turn on his camera and microphone right now. He wants to ask something. As Gretchen said earlier, AAPG plays a role as the progress of the world's energy transition. What early steps might we take as AAPG student chapters as Earth Science students in making this happen? Thank you.
That's a terrific question, how AAPG members and student members can engage in the energy transition. Now, I think following on something Rick said, I think becoming informed is really important. Studying the technology, studying the business. Like I said, my background has been dominantly petroleum. And so I have not yet really spent much time looking at carbon capture and sequestration, but I think it's one of those things that is quite relevant to what I've done in petroleum, because you're basically just moving different fluids through the subsurface. Geothermal is, you can say that there are related aspects of the subsurface there, and even some of the technology, using wells, using potentially hydraulic fracturing. But I think also, understanding the business, what does it take to make a profit in different forms of energy? Because as Rick mentioned, without, in some cases, support from governments, some of these things are difficult to make happen. Now, I will say that I think technology is advancing faster than I sometimes expect. And so, it's interesting, like I took a long drive around the United States the last few weeks, And it was interesting to see solar arrays and the occasional wind turbine in places that a few years ago had none of that. And so obviously, if these things are being built, people are seeing some economic incentive to do that. I think within AAPG, the other thing that I would encourage is that we have lots of technical interest groups. And if you see that there's a need for an interest group that you want to form, that's a very easy thing to do. And we would value your contributions there. You can also support some of the existing groups, like in the, I believe it's the Division of Environmental Geosciences, correct me, Rick, if I'm wrong, which has the geothermal group. We do have a CCUS technical interest group. So there are groups that are looking at this, but I think they always benefit from new volunteers, new contacts, and especially coming from Indonesia, because you have an interesting region in terms of geothermal potential and critical minerals. So I'll stop there and hand off.
Thank you, Gretchen. To Rick, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think as a student, one thing it's kind of hard to understand because everything's right in front of you, but also you got to look at two things. One is the big picture, and in my columns this year, I realized that in my career, about every 5 years, there's something big, something new that comes along. And like when I was starting, it was plate tectonics. They were just fun, you might find that funny now, but plate tectonics was just being finalized kind of as a theory when I started in school. And that was in the 70s. And then sequence stratigraphy came on, and then seismic, 3D seismic came on. And so it's important to look at what big either technology or thoughts, concepts are coming around, and understand those and cling to those. Because, for example, with sequence stratigraphy, I was just starting with Exxon when all that came out. I embraced that, and it helped my career tremendously. It really tremendously, because I was able to speak that language. So that's the first thing. Look around at the big picture. Don't get too focused. The other thing is, this is more philosophic, is don't hate things you don't understand. Okay, it's and I think that's in general. And too often we get mired in politics. And I've had students say, "Oh, I don't hate petroleum because it's bad." Well, okay, but everything you're wearing is made somehow through petroleum, either through the milling or the transportation or whatever. So right now we're looking at a lot of electric cars, and electric cars are great. I love driving electric cars. They're really fun. But right now most of the charging is coming from coal and gas, at least in the U.S. So it's and I think Gretchen just said this. Be aware. Make sure you understand the entire system. Don't hate. Love is always better. And God has given us such a bounty of opportunities and energy in this world. Use them all to make things better for around the world.
Cool. I think that's all from Mr. Rick and Gretchen Gillis. As what Gretchen said, there are tons of technical interest group out there, especially in AAPG. So you're able to look out for those group exactly because they're always looking for volunteer. It's a great opportunity for you as student to jump in this spectrum. And of course, as what Mr. Rick said, that there's always a big picture out there, such as interesting courses like sequence stratigraphy. Don't be hesitant to join, especially as I see AAPG Pajajaran University student chapter always like to make a special course inviting experienced speakers talking about sequence stratigraphy, talking about basin analysis, and all of those kind of spectrum. So if you have any kind of chance to join those courses as well, do not be hesitant to drop yourself in. Cool. I think we also have another participant who want to ask question. Very honored in the very first place to Mr. Herman Derman to be able to join this talk show session. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, moderator. First, thanks to Rick and Gretchen and to join. And I also want to greet Peter Grant and Mark Tingge, my colleague. And yeah, I just want to add comments about this transition because we talk about renewable energy and we also talk about petroleum. In specifically for Indonesia, we have we have a lower production rate in terms of oil. But having said that, basically for students information, so the well which produce oil is getting more and more, producing more and more water through time. So people knows that the production is getting less, but the water produced from the oil wells actually have temperature. So there's hot water, warm or hot water. So there's a technology that we are discussing around about how to optimize this hot water from the oil wells. So that is very useful. So you don't need to drill more wells. You don't need to disturb more environment. Just optimize the existing wells. But you are switching from producing oil to producing water. But we don't take the water as for drinking, but we are taking actually absorbing the heat from the water. And then there's a technology to convert it to electricity. So that's one thing, an example of how we working as a geologist or geoscientist to understand the subsurface and still producing energy out of the existing oil wells. So we need to maintain the production. We know the oil is finished or getting less and less, but we have to keep producing the water to take out the temperature. Yes, that's my addition. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Herman for amazing addition towards the technique in oil drilling, especially in new founding in water as to electricity. Mr. Rick, as you have a drilling experience, have anything to say?
Well, yes, and hi, Herman. It's always good to see you. The thing is geothermal.
We seem to have just lost Rick, but if I may just, it's coming back.
It sounds it has a lot of, but there's also economic. There are some tough items about it that you have to understand, and they're like often you can't use existing wells. You have to drill larger well bores to bring out the water. So you really have to understand the economics of anything new. One thing I'm excited about, though, if you have along the same line, is that if you have wind and solar, you also need energy storage. And so one thing that we're investigating in the U.S. is injecting gas. Can be CO2, but it can be just regular air into the ground and pressure up and use that for energy when in the evenings or when solar's not working and the wind's not blowing, and use that gas to come back and run turbines. And the nice thing about that, it's also hot at that point. It can be hot, and you could also use it as geothermal as well. So there's a lot of technology that needs to be solved with geothermal Well, I think that's going to be a big thing in the future.
Thank you, Rick. To Peter, do you have anything to say?
No, I was just going to come in when we just lost Rick, but I had very similar comments to Rick. It's this energy transition is so important, but it offers so many opportunities to geologists who actually understand rocks, understand energy, and students as you are now, don't just think about oil and gas, think about energy and the diversification of energy that Rick and Gretchen's talked about. It's about positioning yourself where you want to be. We are, as I've said, custodians of the earth, and we are flexible enough to transfer from oil and gas to geothermal to hydrogeology to nuclear to anything. So don't restrict yourselves in your ambition.
Amazing. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Rick. To Gretchen, do you also have anything to add?
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I think that is also important for us to not limit ourselves, especially because the energy spectrum is very big in the very first place. Thank you for the amazing addition from Honorable Mr. Herman Darman as well. Sorry. I also, again, highly encourage the participant to ask the questions by unmuting yourself. So if you have any, just use the raise hand feature again to ask and deliver your question. But because I'm not seeing any kind of participant who ask, I'm going to directly ask some questions from myself. Based on data that I just researched yesterday, some few days ago, for exactly, university graduates from fields like geology and petroleum engineering jobs dropped between 15% and 20% between 2015 and 2019. This is due to the transformation. Will company recruitment also adapt to this transformation, and how we specifically as students to deal with this? Probably first handing to Gretchen.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting and difficult challenge, and I think I mentioned earlier that we're in a time of very rapid change, and understanding where the energy industry is going, where the jobs will be, what the jobs will be, how many jobs will there be, all of that is quite difficult to predict. In terms of the overall employment declining, part of it is, I think that first of all, geologists and engineers have done a fantastic job of supplying energy in many forms to the world. Maybe we've done too good a job and we've become too efficient because fewer of us can do what used to take more people. And we're somewhat aided by technology in that regard. As Rick mentioned earlier, we're currently in a period of reduced exploration. A lot of the large international oil companies are not drilling as many exploration wells. So that's a discipline that in the past has used a lot of geoscientists. I would also say when we look at unconventional resource plays, the efficiency of those plays has increased dramatically over the last, say, 10 to 15 years. And so you have fewer geoscientists and engineers developing those resources. I think in some cases, I would say that perhaps more geoscientists are needed, because just because you think you know where shale is doesn't mean that you necessarily know what the best part is and where you ought to be focusing your drilling efforts. And that's where geologists make a huge difference. And then I suppose one other thing that's difficult to know is how many people are working in small startups related to all different forms of energy. You know, there are lots of independent oil and gas producers in the United States, but then, you know, there are just people who are working to develop technology in very small companies, and you know, and that can happen anywhere. And I'm not sure how well we understand how many people are doing that. In terms of the practical, you know, you want to find a job and you want to be a geologist, I would say that these are pretty difficult times. And so I think back to my early career, you know, I thought that I wanted to work for, you know, one of the really big companies like Exxon or Chevron or Shell that had really fantastic training programs for newly hired geologists. And I didn't get hired by any of those companies. In fact, some of them have rejected me several times. I was fortunate to be hired by Maxis Exploration. They didn't really have a training program, so I took a lot of AAPG short courses and so on to develop my background. And it was a very good job. It wasn't my dream, but it got me started. And you also see that I made a couple of career pivots. One to, I went into development geology for a while. And then I went into the service industry working for Schlumberger. And in that job, I worked in communications. So I spent a lot of time learning about new technology from all of upstream, things from, you know, seismic sensors and geophones to perforating charges at the other end of the spectrum. So I learned a lot about upstream technology, and I really learned how to write, which is such an important skill. But I wasn't working in geology all the time. And that wasn't my dream, but it was still a good job. And then I had the opportunity to join Aramco a little more than 10 years ago. And what appealed to me was I would be back focusing on geology, but my ability to write and my understanding of a lot of upstream technology was attractive to them. And so my suggestion is you may not get what you think is your dream job, but look for whatever keeps you close to what you think your dream is, and use every opportunity to develop skills. And I'm going to take a little more time about that because I recently had a great discussion with a woman who I think is in her early 40s, and she, even though she's probably 15 years younger than me, I consider her a mentor. And we had a great discussion about skills. And I referred to soft skills, and she said, no, they're all skills. And so I'll say that, you know, there are many wonderful university graduates who've taken excellent courses, who've engaged in professional societies, who've done a lot of things that build a very impressive CV or resume. But when you're actually networking and interviewing with potential employers, sometimes it's other skills that become really important. Do you communicate well? Do you appear to have a very solid work ethic? Are you easy to get along with? Do you ask good questions? Do you take the opportunity to help people, or do you wait until somebody tells you to do something? And it's sometimes those non-technical skills that become really important to whether you remain employed. Okay, now I know this is being recorded and I shouldn't say this, but I have not gotten where I am because I'm the best geologist. I have gotten where I am because of working hard, being willing to learn, helping out, a couple of career pivots, using all the skills that I can bring. And sometimes people think I'm nice and sometimes not nice, but all of that has played an important role in my career. And really, it's my network that has kept me continuously employed for over 30 years. And so not everything has been my dream. It's only, really with Aramco, it's been my dream job. So it's, you're always trying to build skills that will get you where you think you want to be. So sorry to go on so long, but that's something I'm quite passionate about.
If I might add to that, Gretchen, to say that your first job is not going to be your last job. And like Gretchen, I wanted to join an oil company. I joined a seismic company first, and I loved it. My first job as a graduate from England at 21, I went out to Irian Jaya, to Salawati Island, and we found an oil field there. I was 21 years old. It was the best experience of my whole life. And I wanted to be a geologist in an oil company, but I shot seismic. But I ended up being in an oil company. But you have to learn. And as you go through your life, learning and experience is the most important thing. And so, yeah, don't knock back a job if it's not the ultimate thing that Gretchen just said, but get onto the ladder, because once you're on the ladder and you're good, you'll sell yourself. So there we go. Any comment, Rick?
Yes, it goes back to what I said in my talk. Thanks, Peter and Gretchen, is that you have in your career these controls. You have passion, you have opportunity, and you have your experience and knowledge. And sometimes you have opportunities that aren't necessarily within your passion, and you just need a job or you want a job. And I actually started out, I was tired of school. And so I started out and decided there was a geophysical job with Texaco. So I decided I'm very good in math, and I thought, well, I'll be I'll be a geophysicist. And then I decided, well, no, that's a fun job, but I had an opportunity to go back and get a master's, and so I went, did that, and came out more as a geologist. And so being flexible, I mean, and some of my career has been based on my good looks, that I'm so good looking, and it helped my career. No, just kidding, kidding. I hope you know I'm kidding. But well, don't laugh. That's but I want to go back to something I said before. It's a different game now, so to say. And if you're going, if you're going to want to be in petroleum and that's what you want to be in and focus, that's fine. If you're looking at the transition, or like I say, the integration, the energy integration, and you want to be more in renewables or CCUS, look, while you have a chance now, look at your education. Take engineering courses. If you're going to go into renewables, you really need to take I've been encouraging students to get dual degrees. If you have, or if it's not engineering, it could be a geoanalytics. If it's not that, it could be business. Get if you want to be more of an entrepreneur, or you want to be a manager, then look at getting business. So you have an opportunity as students right now to adjust your career to kind of where you may want to go. So don't just think, well, I want to go into renewables when I get out of school, so I'm just taking geology. Yes, you can do that. It's a little harder. So if you can adjust, and this has been done in the past. Used to in geology, all you needed was a bachelor's degree to get a good job back in the 50s, 60s, but then you had to get a master's degree to really, if you wanted to, get in that top criteria. And so it's just an adjustment, and everyone can do it. But think about making that adjustment now, and not until after you're out out of school.
Marvel, just to back up with what Rick said, geologists love spending money and on drilling wells and shooting seismic, and we love it and we do great things. But the way the world's gone now, it's all about commercial management, making risk assessment. And so the skills that the geologist has to have now, as Rick said, you need to have commercial skills. You have to understand commercial risk, because these are the things that make all companies, and therefore the people who work with them, more viable. And so, as Rick said, getting a commercial skill, understanding risk is very, very important. So, and that also differentiates yourself from a colleague who doesn't want to do that, just wants to go straight geology.
Oh, what a big relief I'm hearing for these amazing people. As young students, especially young people, we also probably have certain fear of the path that might be leading in the future do not exceed with our expectation. But reciting wonderful, Miss Gretchen, again, if you're not ending up to being hired and work with your company that you've been dreaming of, is totally okay. And as long as you can learn the skill, the technique, the ability to adjust within the workplace and whatnot, it's totally okay. It's totally worth the trade-off, not ending up in the place that you have been dreaming of. And also to recite amazing Mr. Peter again, do not knock off the job just like that, because as what Mr. Rick also had said, the most important thing to note, especially to student right now, is the commercial skill, yeah, and your ability to take the risk. And these things are what make company value you much more and wanting to hire you. Amazing! What a wonderful insight we're hearing for these amazing experienced people. Thank you for all the participants also in here. If you haven't noticed, we also have the president of all AAPG student chapter in this session as well. Because the question very related to student perspective as well, I'm going to ask and engage to Ms. Tiwi Oktarisma from AAPG student chapter General University for her additional perspective towards the question, especially as student in the very first place. So Ms. Tiwi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Marvel, for the opportunity. Before that, thank you for your amazing answer, Ms. Gretchen, Mr. Rick, and Mr. Grant. I just want to give my little response. I think several senior workers in companies such as oil and gas industry has already job cuts or retirement. The sector faces a huge loss of the institutional knowledge for several years or even over the coming years. But I agree about Mr. Fritz, Ms. Gretchen, and Mr. Grant have already give the opinion or the perspective. I got the conclusion about that statement, and your experience about fresh graduate have still big opportunity to enter the oil and gas industry. But I think as a fresh graduate, we should curious about something new and continue to develop our skills such as hard skill and soft skill. Yeah, like what we doing here, AAPG headquarters sharing session with AAPG Indonesia to develop our skill or the other course. We as the next geologist should develop resources of oil and gas industry. Then I got the remarks. The important thing is we don't ever never to stop the learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dewi, for the addition. So yeah, probably for young students, especially me at this time, do not have that fear anymore. Open your mind as big as you can, accept all the possibility that you have in the future to accept the job position that you might be having right now. Okay, cool. Moving on to next question. Next we have a question from Izas from University of Indonesia, majoring in geophysics. I'm curious about how the oil and gas industry facing the pandemic situation, especially for us as a geoscientist that have to work in the field. Is there any possibility to work remotely? Thank you. Handing this first question to Rick.
So as I understand your question, you're talking about, are you talking about oil and gas operations working remotely? If that's what you're talking about, yeah, we are getting, it really truly is amazing. In this last company I ran and owned, a lot of our work was done remotely because you can with all the technology, you can even, I mean, they're even catching samples now where you can instruct people remotely and so on, which you do out on the rig. So I think you have to be careful about, you want to be safe, of course, but also it's very important to get on the rig if you can, to understand operations. You learn tremendous amount by looking, being on a rig, looking at samples, and understanding what's going on as that you drill into the subsurface. It's also tremendously exciting. So to answer your question, yes, more and more you can do things remotely in a drilling process. And it really is truly amazing. Even looking at core, you can look remotely. But I would still encourage you, if you can do it safely, get into the field just to really understand what's going on.
In terms of the COVID environment, Marvel, we may need to see people staying longer on rigs on a rotational basis, so that we don't have to have these too many people going backwards and forwards. When I started, I did 4 months on, 1 month off, and now you do like 3 weeks on and 3 weeks off. But I'm not complaining about that. But we may have to have people staying longer, so that on site, so that there is less chance of interaction. Yeah, I think you may have to consider that for a while.
Thank you, Rick and Peter. Gretchen, do you have anything to say?
I'll just add that our industry at times is accused of not practicing safety at the highest levels. And I think it's really important that during this pandemic, we show respect for our fellow scientists in biology, medicine, and related fields by accepting and embracing their advice. And even though it has bothered me to not be able to travel and visit my colleagues in person, these are still very difficult times. And on the one hand, we're learning a tremendous amount. Biological science, vaccines, and all that, they're making huge advances. My company, I think we're coping quite well with remote activity. We've carried on, but until we feel like we truly have control over the situation, we have to continue to be very cautious about what we do, in our companies and personally. And I think, one of the things that I think we seek as geoscientists is professional respect. We want people who are not geologists to ask us questions, but not tell us they don't believe anything we're saying. And so I think that professional courtesy extends to other fields. But I do think, certainly when I was at Schlumberger, the safety culture around stopping jobs if something unsafe was happening was really important. And I think each of us can bring that to what we do, because we want to be safe, we want to be healthy, we want to do the geoscience that we love. And so I think we have to put our impatience aside and be really thoughtful about our actions? That's a really good question. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rick, Gretchen, and Peter for the answer. Reciting Gretchen and Rick again, probably if you're able and have the privilege to work in the field, please do make sure that you're taking care of yourself to make sure that the fires do not spread. And also the urgency follows for Peter. We need as much people as we need right now in the field. So if you have the ability and the opportunity to work in the field, do not be hesitant as well, because I'm pretty sure that all of us right now have the kind of like missing working in the field, and yeah, do not hold that missed feeling for any longer time if you're able to do work in the field as well. Thank you, Gretchen, Rick, and Peter for the amazing answer. Cool. Highly reminding again, I think that it's getting dry in here. The participant also like kind of sleepy. To remind you guys again, if you have any question, do not be hesitant to unmute yourself, because we are engaging this talk show session to be a responsive one. Of course, it has been very responsive, but it would be much more responsive if you guys unmuting yourself and ask them directly. So if the participant have any specific questions regarding working in the field, how the possibility of you want to jumping, but you guys are hesitant because the pandemic still prolonging in the current situation, just don't worry and deliver your question right now. Counting to 3, if I do not have any questions, I'm just going to deliver my personal questions. Going once, going twice, going thrice. Okay, I'm not seeing anything, right? So yeah, personal question for me to make this session much more delightful. In the midst of recovery from oil prices in this pandemic era, what are our chances as fresh graduates to work in the sector? Is it the same as fresh graduate job opportunity before the pandemic? Yeah, that will be the question first. Probably Peter, Gretchen, Rick, which one of you first want to answer?
I nominate Peter.
Okay, I'll come back in with my video. Yep. It's a very interesting question in that I'll be giving a small presentation after this, and I'll show you where geologists are still needed. Geologists are needed, as Rick said, not just in exploration anymore. Our skill set is such that we can go into many different industries in the resource sector and actually in the IT sector. However, there's going to be a continuous need for oil and gas, and I'll demonstrate that when I talk a bit later. So there is a need. One of the biggest issues is we've been so good in technology that technology is one of the reasons why we need fewer geoscientists in oil and gas, because machine learning, artificial intelligence, all these things have meant that, the amount of time that was required for a geoscientist to work is a lot less. So when I started work, to interpret 1,500 kilometers of 2D seismic might take 6 months. Now you can interpret 3,000 square kilometers of 3D seismic in the same time period. So technology has made us a little bit short on jobs. However, the calibration of all this data that goes in there is an issue for me. Computers can't do it on its own. There has to be a need for physical interpretation by geoscientists, whether it's in the seismic domain, whether it's in the log domain, whether it's in the geologist domain. And we have to make sure that our geoscientists understand not only the fact that we have so much data available and we have so much ability to use computers to manipulate that data, but the geoscientist's role is going to be make sure that the integrity of that data is correct. That's my view.
Thank you, Peter. To Gretchen, do you have anything to say as well toward the question?
I think Peter summarized quite well. That technology has been a tremendous advance in terms of the productivity of each geoscientist. I think I'm really interested and curious to see what the future holds for entrepreneurship. Individuals who invent a new technology or new interpretation methods, for example. And there's a wide variety of things that could go into the energy transition that we're not quite sure what we're going to need. And so I think that's where your flexibility and creativity are going to be really important, because I think understanding what you want the energy future to look like is going to play a huge role in what gets developed and deployed. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen and Peter. Probably Rick, have any words also to say?
Well, I want to make sure, again, I understand the question. You're asking after the pandemic, is it going to go back to normal, or is it going to change significantly? Is that the question generally?
Oh, okay. So the question that I was reading back then, this is the kind of the same, the nuance of the question is like the fear of fresh graduate to opt into oil and gas industry because of the pandemic situation right now, comparatively to the oil and gas industry before the pandemic. How easy is actually going to be comparing to this kind of time right now? Is it's actually harder, or it's actually much more easier for getting access to this job industry?
Well, I think the answer is it's going to be harder generally. I mean, that's we're just seeing. But you also have to understand there's been a dynamic change over this time period, in that the companies are with environmental concerns are being pressured by their stockholders significantly to handle things a lot different regarding, like I say, the sustainable development of oil and gas and the environment, et cetera. It's and CO2, how we handle CO2 issues. So there's tremendous pressure on the companies to change and move away to some degree from oil and gas, but they're doing that. I mean, they're making some changes, and that impacts jobs. And but as I've said before, jobs are also impacted by the fact that we're not doing a lot of exploration drilling right now. Things as they deplete, actually have less value, I mean, over time. So it's not something that's growing constantly. And so we have to replenish it. And we know for a number of people on Earth, and for countries that are developing and that want to develop their economies, that oil and gas is still going to be extremely important. And we have a glut of oil right now, but in the future that will go away, and so we'll need it again. But certainly jobs have been impacted during this period, and I think it'll change forever. But as I said before, also I think there's a lot of new opportunities. They're not going to be as concentrated as oil and gas, but there's some great opportunities out there.
Amazing. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Peter. So what I can get probably, do not fear if you are not getting hired in this kind of pandemic time, because the accessibility for you to opt it into the industry as well is going to be much more harder, even though it's actually harder reciting what Peter said. The existence of technology that very advanced for you to do everything in very, very quick time, probably enabling the career opportunity itself is going to be much more widened and open to every layer of people. Going in the same again, probably in here we have the president of AAPG Student Chapter Indonesia, Mr. Ahmad Fikri. Do you want to add your own perspective from as a student itself?
Okay, thank you, Marvel. Hello, Rick, Gretchen, and Peter. Thank you for your wonderful answer. I agree with your answer, but I just want to share that here in Indonesia, because of COVID-19 pandemic, it's so hard for fresh graduate in Indonesia to applying to oil and gas industry. And yeah, I hope everything will come back to normal. And like we said before, we should continue to develop our skill, such as soft skill and hard skill. Thanks, Marvel. I give it back to you.
Thank you also, Ahmad.
Perhaps Marvel, because I understand Indonesia probably better than Rick and Gretchen, I may step in first, if that's okay.
Yeah, totally okay.
Great question. As you know, Indonesia, it was the first country to bring in the production sharing contract because of its prolific resources. However, over the last 10 years, it's floundered because of some of the political decisions made rather than the geological decisions made. And it's very important that you guys as potential leaders eventually in the hydrocarbon business understand the requirements and the match between the production sharing contracts and the opportunity. The opportunities in Indonesia in the past were fantastic in that you had, this is the 70s and 80s, hydrocarbons were very, very found prolifically. It's not so at present. And your production sharing contracts at present are not conducive now for exploration because the success ratio is a lot less. So my short answer to your question is there has to be a change in political will to incentivize oil companies to invest money. Your national oil corporation is great, but they can't do it on their own. You need foreign investment, especially in the remote areas of Indonesia, which still suffer from lack of exploration. So I'm encouraged that there is potential change. There was change 2 years ago in the production sharing contract, but there needs to be more change to promote exploration. And if we promote exploration, which is required because you're now importing oil, then there will be more jobs for Indonesians. So thank you, Marvel.
Thank you, Peter, for the amazing addition. Yeah, so just basically let's hope the best for the production of company probably want to investing in our nation. So the job opportunity for fresh graduate will be available as well. Thank you for the answer for amazing speaker. Moving on to our next participant here, Mr. Hafiz want to ask the question. He already raised his hand. To Mr. Hafiz, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Marvel, for allowing me to speak. Hello, Mr. Gretchen, Mr. Gillis, Mr. Peter. this is just based on your judgment or estimation. Will there be an energy source that is as reliable as fossil fuels? Or will there be many alternatives that are combined or collaborated into one to be used, rather than just one new energy source that could solve the majority of the energy requirements like the fossil fuels? Do you get that?
Yeah, thank you, Hafiz. That's a very interesting question. I think my sense is that if we had the perfect energy source, we wouldn't be talking about so many different types of energy. And so they all have advantages and disadvantages. Certainly in Texas, we have a lot of electricity generated by wind power. We have some solar power. We also have natural gas plants. I don't think we have any more coal plants generating electricity. We have nuclear plants. So we have a variety of energy sources. And this year, in the month of February, we had a very significant winter storm where we had temperatures below freezing for about 5 days, which is very unusual in Houston. And you probably heard about people not having electricity in their house and that sort of thing. I was fortunate that actually my electricity stayed on the entire time. My water ran out for a couple of days, but the electricity stayed on. And there was a lot of criticism about what's going on and what failed. And the answer was that pretty much every source of energy was failing in some way during that crisis. And I think we're still working through what should we be doing? How do we make our electricity more reliable? And so I do think that the answer for now is having a variety of sources, plus some backup, plus maybe some energy storage. I think a few years ago when there was the terrible nuclear accident in Japan, which combined with an earthquake, a lot of people said, oh, nuclear has to go. We've had times where people have said no more coal. And every time you get rid of one viable source of energy, something has to come in. So I don't think we know the answer. I think the answer for now is still a mix. And then anytime you can use what you have locally, that's really terrific. And I think of Iceland, which has a tremendous geothermal energy resource. It is amazing. And that's terrific, but not every place is like Iceland. So we've got to use the energy that we can get. Now, Texas has a lot of wind and a lot of sun, so that's good, but it doesn't work that way everywhere. Occasionally I'll have engineers or other people tell me the future is going to be hydrogen. I don't know if I'm ready to agree with them yet because I don't think we know enough. And then I would say that even from the perspective of the products, the goods that we use, we are going to need petrochemicals for a long time. And I think, so during the pandemic, I've thought about all those plastic syringes for injections, for vaccinations. It's really good to have plastic to make those. I went to the blood center the other day to donate blood, and I was really glad that they had fresh plastic bags and clean plastic tubing so that my blood could go into the bag to help somebody. So I think getting rid of one particular source of energy is difficult. countries have tried, and it's, it winds up, there are costs and risks associated with changing your sources of energy. So thank you. That's a terrific question.
Thank you, Gretchen, for that answer. To Peter, do you have anything to respond?
Not really. I think Gretchen's answered that really well.
Cool. To recite that, it means it depends again to the ability for certain nation or certain place to implement their ability in like taking the resources well. Probably going to answer to complement the whole thing. I'm going to ask Ms. Andrea Mutiara from AAPG Student Chapter University of Indonesia to add her perspective regarding this topic. Do you have any knowledge that you get from your college, from the course that you probably take regarding this question? To Ms. Andrea, I'm giving him to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Gretchen, for your answer. And I am fully agree with Gretchen, but I think fossil fuel isn't something that we can get rid of, especially in Indonesia, where fossil fuel is one of our main natural resources for electricity, transportation, and others. And yes, probably renewable energy or others energy will be booming than fossil fuel, but maybe not today or not in 3 or 4 years from now, because as we know that there are still needs a lot of development in renewable energy or other resources due to the regulation, cost, and others, especially in Indonesia. I think that's it, Marvel.
Cool. Thank you for the additional knowledge, Andrea. It's useful for all of us in here. I guess thank you all. I think that that was the last question for this Q&A session. My head is very full for a lot of knowledge, for a lot of experiences for these amazing people. For those who haven't got the question answered in this session, do not worry, because we will open an email submission for the participant to submit their question to. The ORCOM will be sharing the email in no longer by now in the chat box. So if you feel you have anyone, do not be hesitant to deliver it to the email submission. That being said, we have arrived at the end of this talk show session. On behalf of the committee and whole AAPG student chapter in Indonesia, I'm thanking both Gretchen, Rick, and also lastly to Peter Grant for all the amazing answers towards this session and the new insight that we have been nicely implemented in our future experience to become a better exploration geologist and all of the other spectrum in job. Before we jumping furthermore to our next agenda, we have a wrap-up session from Peter Grant, Vice President of AAPG Asia Pacific Representative, regarding his perspective in the discussion as well. Without any longer time to wait, to Mr. Peter Grant, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm just getting in there. Lois, is the screen up?
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay, thanks everybody. And I'm just going to give you a very quick cook story of where I am, and then I'll give a vote of thanks. So energy transition is happening, as both Gretchen and Rick have said, and it's going fast. The world's climate is changing in many ways. Hydrogen as energy will happen and is growing rapidly, and renewables will continue to grow. Geothermal and hydro will continue, and nuclear will continue. And as we saw in one of the recent AAPG things, the small units are safe, cheaper, and better, and they will happen. But as I'm going to show you in a few minutes, oil and gas is still needed and is forecast to grow. So we still need geoscientists to look at these things and find it, but we have to make sure this valuable product is used in the most effective and sustainable manner with minimal emissions. I like to tell my friends that geologists will continue to play an important role in the world. We are the custodians of the earth. So here we have a look at what Exxon produced in their latest energy demand. Global energy is going to grow as we go forward. And you can see the different sectors from residential, industrial, electrical, light duty, etc. You can see that energy is going to grow. And on the right-hand side here, you'll see the distribution. Exxon predict by 2040 that oil will still continue to grow. Natural gas will grow, coal will decline, electricity will go up, and renewables will continually grow up. That's because the population is growing, and we have to supply power and energy to the growing population. And even though renewables will be the most important sector, oil and gas will still continue to grow. And if we look at just oil on its own and outside of combustion engines, so vehicles, that is, this is what BP have said. If we continue without any pressure on reducing our emissions, then oil will continue to grow significantly from 2018 to 2050. Gas will continuously grow and coal will stay relatively static. That's probably not going to happen. Their net zero is where carbon has to reduce significantly. And as a result, oil and gas starts reducing and coal is minimized, but it's still there as you go out to 2050. Their rapid one is the intermediate between the two of them, and they still see oil as very important. If you look on the right-hand side, you'll see oil for feedstocks, plastics, and fibers. We produce about 95 million barrels of oil per day. 10 million barrels of that goes into plastics and fibers. And again, on that same analysis of business as usual, net zero and rapid, you can see that basically, if we had extrapolation past trends, we go a lot more significant. But if we go to between business as usual and we go to rapid, we're still going to be creating over 10 million barrels a day going into these two different sectors. So there's going to be a need for oil and gas. If we look at oil and gas demand now, and this is by different countries, so we're looking at the liquids here on the left. We're saying that we're here at 2021 now at about 100 million. We're still predicting that we're going to be up at about 115 million barrels a day as we go out to 2040. So we're not going to go dead. In gas, similar thing. In 2000 to 2040, gas is going to grow because it's a very good resource and very clean. But here's the rub. On the left-hand side here, you can see the modest increases in all the different sectors. You can see their contribution to the energy supply, oil, gas, coal, renewables down here. Their contribution is still small, and we're still going to see an increase in gas and oil. But here's what Exxon predicted in 2017. If we stopped actually exploring and developing any new fields, it would take us from 2015 to 2040, where we had virtually no oil being produced. And that's a really telling thing. So what I'm going to show you now is if we go from 96 million barrels a day, which is where we are at present, to 2040 at 115, not big, it's still a problem. So here's that same graph. Here we are, 2021. This is where we are at about 96, and we're still going to grow out here. But our problem is underneath that line, we don't have the reserves. So we're going to need exploration. We're going to need geologists and engineers to actually find and develop that resource. Otherwise, the world is going to be in a big problem. So, as Rick's already said, a geologist's skills, we're multidimensional, and that means we are we have a lot of opportunity out there. We're not just geologists. We've got a whole series of skills we learned at university. We're great at mapping and contouring. We're great at log analysis. And that's just complex curves, multifaceted integration, interpolation. We're great at 3D imagery and interactive modeling, AI, machine learning, real-time analysis, sequence analysis, risk. We know risk better than anybody and how to quantify them. Statistics, we know how to deal that, and trend analysis, log analysis, common risk segment analysis. That can be used in many different facets of the world, and climate change. So we are multi-skilled. So we can, wherever we choose where we want to be, we can be there. We're energy geoscientists. We don't have to be oil and gas geoscientists. Last slide now is career options. So wider scope, we have a future. And as Rick said, oil and gas, it's not going away. We need people. Even though I've said earlier, technology has reduced the amount of people we need, a lot of us old guys, we're getting older and we'll be out of the business. So it's going to be to you younger guys to take over. Hydrogen. So in hydrogen, storage of hydrogen and the development of hydrogen needs geoscientists. Carbon capture, yeah, the same. It's just the reverse of the production systems. And injection needs geologists. It's the same things that we have to do, and that's going to be massive as we go forward. So that's an area where you may want to consider geothermal, renewables in the fact that not just the fact that it's just energy, but we have to locate the minerals for them, and that takes geologists and geophysicists. Nuclear, we've got to find the minerals and, importantly, the safe disposal of them. And of course, we've got environmental geologists. So I'm just going to say that I'll give you the encouragement to stay in the industry. It's really important. It's vital to the energy supply and the environmental aspects of where we want to be as a future. Anyway, that's what I want to say about that. But now my vote of thanks. I think what we've done today and what the Indonesian students have done today has been phenomenal. I've had the opportunity to go to Indonesia to talk to the students 3 or 4 times, and it's been fantastic. You are the best student chapters in the whole of the world of the AAPG, and I take my hat off to all of you if I had a hat on, but I don't today. You're fantastic, and I can't say anything better. The organization committee that has been put on there today, you've done a phenomenal job. You've done everything to schedule, and it's been fantastic. Lois, Marvel, Duandari, the whole team of people who've done all of this. It couldn't have been done without a great organizational structure. And the fact that you were able to bring in the past president and the current president of the AAPG speaks wonders for how they respect you as well. I just think you've all done fantastic. You've got a great future. You've just got to position yourself well in this energy environment. Don't be a sleeping violet. Make sure you go out there and sell yourself, and make sure that you network to do that. But Indonesia needs you, the world needs you. So I thank you all for doing what you've done. I also thank those members of our Asia Pacific Committee, and I know that our president, Mark Tingay, is on this call today, and he, like me, thinks the world of Indonesia and Malaysia and the future they have in our environment. So thank you very much, Marvel, Lois, Duandari, and the rest of your committee. And I take my hat off to you.
Here, here. You're welcome, Peter. And thank you so much for the amazing remarks. All of us also have been thankful for your existence in this talk show session. And all of us geology students do not lose our hope for the existence of oil, we as geologists are still needed. Even though it's in nuclear sector and other facets, we geologists are still highly needed. Thank you, Peter Grant, for that amazing remarks. Before I close off our session, Gretchen, do you have any last word for all of us students in here to say?
Yeah, thank you, Marvel. I would like to echo Peter's high praise for the work that you've done. It's been really a pleasure getting to know you. It's an honor to work with students who are so professional and so thoughtful in developing this event. I think one of the thoughts that I'd like to leave you with is that some of the preliminary questions focused on diversity and inclusion and the role of women in the industry. And I think as a follow-up to this event, I would be delighted to talk some more about that topic because I think it's very important, but we are limited on our time today. So I will close by thanking you so much for this opportunity. And I wish you all great success and healthy, safe days ahead.
Gretchen, if I may just interrupt there, I look at the committee members here and how many are ladies. We have just started a women in geoscience for the Asia Pacific region, and that's being coordinated through ADRIEM. And we have links into Houston. And this is, we will have our first meeting in about a month's time. And any of you ladies from Indonesia who wish to join, please contact Wandari and he will nominate you to work with us in the Asia Pacific region on the ladies committee.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Gretchen, for that amazing addition. Rick Fritz, do you have any last word for all of us?
Yes, thank you. The world is full of new opportunities, as I've said, and as Peter and Gretchen have said. It's really a very exciting time. And then I encourage you. The thing that's very important is, okay, look to your left. Okay, look to your right. I know you can't see anybody, but you look like on the camera that you were looking at each other. So that's the community. You are the community, and enjoy each other, learn from each other. And you're the future. You've heard it said before of our profession, and I'm excited about seeing you all as you grow and develop and find the opportunities and looking for new energy for our world. We need it, and they rely on us to provide that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well, Rick. Okay, this is our very last time in this session. I'm going to do a quick resume. I know that all the participants are very, very tired, but I promise this one will be very, very fast. In today's world of virtual connection, we as geologists need to find opportunities in small companies or even like small startup companies, since larger companies tend to buy those small companies, right? Gretchen Gillis started her career not on what she dreams to be, but it got her started in a lot of amazing skill. Getting back on also Peter Grant's point, in which don't restrict or don't limit yourself in your ambitions, right? As Gretchen stated, look for whatever is close to achieving your dreams. Take every opportunity, take a big leap, and do not limit yourself. Be the flexible one in this field, because the company will much more high likely to hire you. We have arrived in our end of this session tonight. I'm very, very honored again, lastly, to be the moderator in this talk show session tonight. Thank you again, and very, very last, to Ms. Gretchen Gillis, Mr. Richard Fritz, and Mr. Peter Grant for sparing the time to be our speaker in this session, and to all participants also for the amazing participation to make this session delightful and a very responsive one. I am Marvel Amadeus, signing on from the session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to you, Noval.
Terima kasih banyak.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Marvel as the moderator, and also thank you to our speakers, Ms. Gretchen Gillis, Mr. Richard Fritz, also Mr. Peter Grant for an amazing talk show today. That was very knowledgeable and insightful for us. Okay, for the next agenda, I would like to invite Mas Andar as the chairman of Executive Committee APG Indonesia and accompanied by President of APG Unpad Student Chapter, President of APG UI Student Chapter, President of APG ITB Student Chapter, and faculty advisors of APG Student Chapter in Indonesia to give some speech and present memento to the speakers of APG Talkshow 2021. For Mas Andar and the others, the time is yours.
Wow, wow, wow. What a fascinating AAPG talk show. Thank you everyone for everything. But then we're gonna close this event soon. But then please do remember that before we have the shopping list, the fun facts that need to be checked before we close this AAPG talk show. So for the verse, actually in terms of the student perspective, from the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and then the fresh grad, and also all the graduates, we will agree that all of the part of student perspective has been discussed very well. So check for experiences. And the second one for the majors, yes, mostly geoscience geoscience student participants are mostly attended this APG talk show, but then we have also the participants. We have already discussed about the instrument kind of thing, material kind of thing. So the other sciences and other engineering also check. And for the institution, yeah, we have many questions from Indonesian student chapter. We have several chat question from the specific students, and we have also Claire from Northern Arizona who has a question also. So we can check also for the institution. Last but not the least, for the Pareto of the objective or expectation from the participants about the knowledge. We have already discussed about the leveraging knowledge, getting new insight, and then how to prepare the future career and also create the opportunity with sharing experience and gaining networks. So all of the things already checked. So congratulations, not only for the speakers, but also for all of us. Give a virtual applause for all of us. Well, because all of the objective already done, so I will let the representative of faculty advisors of AAPG Indonesian Student Chapter to give the closing remark. I will invite Doctor of Science Yoga Andriana Sanjaya, a faculty advisor of APG Universitas Pajajaran Student Chapter, to give the closing remarks. Pak Yoga, the time is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Is it clear enough?
Yeah, crystal clear.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, and also good afternoon, and maybe good morning to everyone. As introduced by Mr. Dwandari, my name is Yoga. I'm the faculty advisor of the AAPG student chapter of Universitas Pajajaran. And on behalf of all faculty advisor, I would give the highest appreciation to Gretchen, to Richard, and also to Peter for sharing all of the experience and all of the knowledge. Hopefully, can encourage the students at this time and evening, because first I'm quite surprised, because usually if I give class 9 in the morning, they're not as anxious like this. But when I see all of the students at this time of night, oh my God, they're all eyes. But when I have my class, it's like, hey, come on, wake up. Well, anyway, it means that this talk show is very, very helpful, and also it helps me a lot as a lecturer, because sometimes the first question pops up in the classes, sir, how about the oil and gas future? I said, okay, let's just study geology, and then let's talk about that later. And so I'm so thankful Gretchen is here, and also Richard, and also Peter. I was following all of your talks, and as Gretchen as well, same. I was rejected by Chevron. I was rejected at FICO. I was rejected, and I became a lecturer. But anyway, I like what I'm doing now, and still, we never know how our future is. So to all of the students, please, the future, you have a future. Okay, the opportunity is there, the future is there. It's yours to take. So as has been said by Gretchen, is that there's no soft skill, there's no hard skill. As long as it's positive, just do as best as you can, because that will make you that can leverage you anywhere you want to be, and you still have to have a dream. And also Peter told me that the first job he went was at Salawati. See, maybe some of us in Indonesia haven't been there, Peter, but you've been, I don't know when. So just take it. Just if you have an opportunity, and take it and be passionate about it, and hopefully you'll love your job. So again, thank you very much for the sharing the experience and the knowledge that you share on behalf of the AAPG. Thank you very much, Mr. Dwandari. I would like to thank you, and of course the committee, the students, AAPG student chapter, Universitas Pajajaran, University Indonesia, also ITB, and other members. And I can see several faculty advisors also attend. I would like to say hi, because here I'm replacing Professor Eddie, who was changed. He has another job, so I'm here to be the faculty advisor. Maybe that's all, Mr. Dwandari. Thank you very much, and I hope you guys are encouraged to have a future. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Yoga, for a very warm closing remarks. So I will invite the AAPG Student Chapter President of ITB, Kang Ahmad Fikri, to give the certificate of recognition for Gretchen Gillis.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Ahmad Fikri as the president of APG Bandung Institute of Technology Student Chapter 2021. On behalf of committee, I want to give this a certificate of appreciation and say thank you very much for our speaker today, Miss Gretchen Gillis, for a very insightful presentation and talk show today. Okay, everyone, please give virtual applause to Miss Gretchen Gillis. Thank you, Mas Andar.
Okay, thank you, Kang Ahmad Fikri. The second one, I will invite the APG Student Chapter President of Universitas Pajajaran, Teh Tiwi Oktarisma, to give the certificate of appreciation to Rick Bridge.
Okay, thank you to Mas Andar for the opportunity. Hello, I'm Tiwi Oktarisma as a president of AAPG Universitas Pajajaran Student Chapter, and an honor for me to give a symbolized certificate to the speaker, Mr. Rick Fritz. On behalf of AAPG Talkshow, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Rick Fritz for taking the time to discuss and sharing your experience and also knowledge for us today with the Skyward event. This is a wonderful day and amazing talk show I ever had. Hope that we can meet you again in the next event, Mr. Rick Fritz. Give applause to Mr. Rick Fritz. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Teh Tiwi Oktarisma. Last but not the least, I will invite Kak Andrea Mutiara as APG University of Indonesia AAPG Student Chapter President to give the certificate of appreciation to Peter Grant.
Okay, thank you, Mas Andar. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea. I'm the president of APG UISC 2021. On behalf of our committee, let me present you certificate of recognition. And also, I would like to say thank you for your time to joining APG Talk Show, Mr. Peter. I hope that we can make another great collaboration through APG. Also, don't forget to stay healthy and hope you have a great week ahead. Please give a virtual applause to Peter.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
You're welcome.
Okay, again, thank you everyone for everything. And last but not the least, I will inform all of you that in APG Indonesian Student Chapters Committee will also have the Geoscience Student Leadership Development and Training on September. So this is also another big event from APG Indonesian Student Chapters Committee. So make sure that your APG student chapters in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Asia Pacific can be involved also in this kind of events. So last but not the least, we commend all the participants, invited guests, committee, and especially to the speakers for having exciting and memorable events filled with enlightening, interactive session. Thank you for bringing this dynamic exposition to our APG Indonesia community and APG big family. I will invite all of the committee to open your camera because we will have the big photo session after this. So please give applause to all of the committee. Yeah, we give the virtual applause for all of the committee. And then please, I will invite the organizing committee and student chapter committee from APG Indonesia Executive Committee. So we have Gaby, Bro Adit, and Tim. Please also open your camera while I will stop sharing. Yeah. So give a virtual applause also for the APG Indonesia Executive Committee as well as the Student Chapters Committee. I want also to invite the APG Asia Pacific Region Council with Mark Tingay, Peter Grant, Adrian, House of Delegates, ex officio member, and then all invited guests. Yeah, please also give a virtual applause to all of them. Okay, and then last but not the least, I will invite all of the APG community everywhere you are, the big family of APG in Indonesia, Asia Pacific, and all around the globe to open your camera because we want to give a virtual applause, a very big virtual applause for all of you and all of us. Okay, thank you. We're gonna have the big photo session after this. But before again, thank you for all to make this happen. So I will give it back to Naufal to lead the photo session.
Okay, thank you, Mas Andar, for the moment. So I will lead the photo session here. And for the documentation team, you can take a screenshot of each slides, and there will be 6 slides of this Zoom. Okay, I will count to 3. Hold your pose for a moment. 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the last slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe the documentation team has already taken the screenshots. And thank you to all the participants who have turned on the camera. And thank you to Mas Andar and the others for giving the memento and for the speech, also for the documentation session. Okay, before we close this event, there is an announcement for the best questions. So I will ask the speakers first, and maybe from the speakers, Is there any suggestions for our winner for the best questions today? Maybe first from Ms. Gretchen Gillis.
Yes, I enjoyed all of the questions. I would like to especially commend Nela from the University of Indonesia.
All right, congratulations. Thank you for the suggestion, Ms. Gretchen Gillis. And next, maybe from Mr. Richard Fritz, is there any suggestion? You're still muted.
All great talks, and I would like to recommend Mr. Satria Hafiz's great question.
Okay, congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Richard Fritz, for the suggestions. And last, maybe from Mr. Peter Grant, maybe can suggest too?
Oh, I wasn't on the committee for this, so I didn't take names, but I thought the questions were fantastic. And I was very encouraged by the quality of the questions. So, but I can't nominate because I didn't take names.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peter Grant. And okay, we are already chosen the best questions based on today's talk show. Okay, maybe I will ask for another best questions for today. And I will ask Mr. Richard Fritz for another suggestions, maybe.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. What was that?
Maybe we can have another winner for the best questions today. And
Oh, you need another winner recommendation?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. It was the let's see. It was Tristofani. I would on the question on entrepreneurial and on instrumentation and so on. I love that.
Wow, congratulations. And thank you, Mr. Richard Fritz, for the suggestion. So we already have 3 best questions for today. And wait a moment. Okay, congratulations for the winner of best questions of today's AAPG Talk Show 2021. And for the winner, you can give up your WhatsApp number privately to Committee Amar to redeem the prize. Congratulations. Okay. Next, there will be a polling link in the Zoom chat column. And for all the participants, you can fill the link that has been provided. And I will give you about 3 minutes. And also don't forget to fill in the link for the attendance that will be provided too, because the participants will get free e-certificates.
Well, thank you, Gretchen. Again, Rick Fritz, Peter Grant, Mark Tingay, Adrian, everyone in the committee.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure to be here with you. Congratulations on the success of your talk show.
Yeah, thank you. So this is the collaborative event and collaborative efforts between us, so we can celebrate it together, right?
Andor, have you got your guitar with you just to give us a little song at the end?
Yeah, actually, I'm still waiting for the Rick session playing guitar because yeah, Peter know that my
you could play together, you know.
Not bad. Yeah. Yeah, bring back to 2017, if I'm not mistaken, in Palembang, Universitas Sriwijaya. Myself and Peter attend events from the APG University of Sriwijaya student chapters, and then I'm playing guitar while Peter singing "Blow in the Wind."
There you go,
Do you
Rick.
still remember the song, Peter?
Yeah, I remember it well, Rick.
So it's usually in the normal condition before pandemic, the event like the talk show and then geoscience, student leadership and development training like this is something like the party for the APG Indonesian student member to get together, to share, to discuss, to sing together, to yeah, to brainstorm each other, to meet the expert professional, and then getting new knowledge, new idea, new spirit, new dreams, maybe. Yeah, so that's why it's very grateful to have Gretchen and then Rick Fritz, Mark Tingay, Peter, as well as all of the invited guests.
And Andar, I know that Mark and myself would love to come and visit the universities again as soon as we can. I don't know if Mark's got a comment as president of Asia Pacific, just to say something on that regard, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the downsides of this pandemic is that we don't get the opportunity to have the the real in-person contact with the wonderful student chapters that we have in the region, and particularly the amazing student chapters that we have in Indonesia. I've had the opportunity to visit a couple many years ago, but I would love to visit more. But what I would like to offer is to any of the student chapters that are in the region, if you would like us to have a virtual meeting with you or give a virtual talk for your student chapter, we are more than willing. So the invite is always open, or the offer is always open. You can reach out to us, myself, or to any of the committee, and we'd be more than happy to have one-on-one chats with you over the over Zoom.
Yes, thank you, Mark, Peter. So actually, in Indonesia, we're going to implement the pentahelix of the APG community involvement and engagement. So from the students, young professional itself, the industry, and then the academic. So this is also the very powerful support from the faculty advisor, like Pak Yoga mentioned before. Yeah. So this is the integral things. Yeah. We can distinguish each other. So it's be something like completing each other. Maybe Pak Yoga, do you have any additional compliments for this kind of things, please?
Of course I do, because as I hear all of the things from professionals and from the lecturers and also the students, it's most common because especially in Indonesia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been a lecturer for 20 years, and I remember when I first graduated, they said, yeah, they're gonna be oil and gas for like 15 years, and it's been 20 years, and they still say the same, and I don't know what to say. But these kind of talk show can give us new ideas and encourage the students that, come on, we do need geoscientists, whatever it is, all the alternative energies. Still, we need scientists, and especially we do need people who cares about some changing. Of course, there will be some shifting and things like that, and of course, Mr. Duandari, I think collaboration like this is most needed, especially in the pandemic like this. We cannot see each other without seeing a screen, and most of the time, almost a quarter of the day, we're just seeing a screen. And hopefully, this pandemic will stop soon, and we'll be glad to have anybody or to come to Indonesia, or give some lecture again, or to meet or organize any things like some things in terms of having a chat of future energy. I think maybe that's what we're hoping, and still we do have high hopes about energy, all sorts of energy. But yeah, I think that's it. But don't worry. Although we're not all good looking like Richard, but we do have a future. We do have a future. I'm saying because maybe that's one point, Richard, that I was rejected at that time. Maybe that's one point, but I still have high hopes. Then now I'm happy with it, with what I'm doing, and I hope you guys still have high hopes too, that your future is still very good. Indonesia is a very nice place. All of a sudden you'll go from Aceh to Merauke, and of course maybe Mr. Dwandari also already done that, and we're all waiting to hear him and Peter playing the music again soon, live, not on the not on the computers maybe. Maybe that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Yoga. So Pak Yoga actually also singer, so we can collab in the future maybe. Well, Noval and the committee, have you already finished the polling and then a certificate list?
Yeah, I think it's already done. Okay. Okay, thank you to the participants who have filled the link. And finally, we arrive at the end of the event. And I would like to say thank you in advance to all the speakers, Ms. Gretchen Gillis and Mr. Richard Fritz, for the amazing talk show today, and also to the invited guest, moderator, and all of the participants who have joined the APG Talk Show 2021. And thank you to our media partners for this event from APG UPN Student Chapter, APG Unbrau Student Chapter, APG Undip Student Chapter, APG Student Chapter Unpak, APG ISTEAK Print Student Chapter, APG Unsri Student Chapter, APG Unhas Student Chapter, APG Student Chapter Universitas Pertamina, and APG Trisakti. Okay, now we are at the very end of today's event. On behalf of the APG Talk Show 2021 committees, I would like to apologize for any mistake throughout today's event. And also, don't forget to check out our social media for further information about our next event. And okay, I hope that all of you are in excellent condition, especially during this pandemic situation. And that is all from me. Thank you so much and see you on the next event.
Thank you, everybody. Lois.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good night. Beautiful.
Thank you. Great job.
A great night.
Thank you,
And,
Mr.
and the committee.
and
Good
Peter.
night.
Good
Sleep
luck
well.
on your good luck on your careers. Remember,
Thank you, Peter.
remember, you are now energy geoscientists.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well noted, Peter.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Shukran and salamat malam.
Shukran.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, healthy, and happy at the same time.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mr. Fritz.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Great job, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Preston.
Fritz.
A little more applause. Here we go. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you again.
Thank you to the committee.
And that's your children now.
Oh, Pak Desaiful harusnya juga ikut ini. Sing along. Sing along, rumah kita.
Just to see the young generation.
Okay, then we will continue your path.